Hello, and welcome to this webinar on Production Assist and how the electrical system works. Before we begin starting an actual file, let's take a look at the different components that are used in the electrical system, how they are used, and how to make edits to them if needed. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the first part of our chain, and this is the generator object or supply object. This is where all the power will be coming from whenever we work with an object. To edit any of these objects, go to Window, and then go to your Resource Manager. Once your Resource Manager is up, you can see all the different information that's inside of your file. So let's go ahead and go to our symbol definitions, and here we can see our generator right here, and we can go ahead and click the edit button to edit it. Inside of our generator, you see we have geometry, and we also have the output. This is shows that it's a generator object and it's going to supply us power. To set this information, over here in our object properties, we can see that we have our type, which is generator, which means that it will be supplying power. So if this was a house source or anything like that, maybe this is a house disconnect, generator just means that it's supplying power. It's generating the electricity for our system. Underneath of this is our connector. This is how power is actually coming out and what cable we're using to attach. Currently, this one is set up to be a 16 amp CEE type connector. However, in the drop-down, we can change this to whatever we want. If this was going to be power lock at a specific amperage, or maybe a Sockopex output, whatever we want to change that to be. Here is the default cable length that's shipped with it, and the maximum amount of power in wattage and its voltage. If this was operating at a different voltage, we would change this voltage here. To save any changes, we can click Save, Close, and close the edit mode, and this will apply any changes we've made to every single symbol in the document that we've used this for. If objects disappear after editing, you can use the refresh command to redraw the scene. Next, let's take a look at a big distributor object. These are going to be things like racks or other PDs and dimmers. Again, we'll go to Window and we'll go to our Resource Manager. Here we can see the document, and here's ours, and then we'll go ahead and edit. Again, we can see all the different types of input, the throughput, and all the different circuit outputs. Let's go ahead and open up our electrical data, and we can see each type of output, whether it's a Schuko, how it is, and where the fuses are lined up, as well as the linked cable graphic. You can also give it a name. Right now this just is 1, but since this is a Schuko 16 amp, if I wanted to, I could call this Schuko 1, and we'll see that the name has been updated, and again I can save and close. And now if I look at the electrical, we can see that the output 1 is now Schuko 1, and I've saved that edit. Next is a smaller distributor. This is a fan out or a plug box. While you might not think of it as a distributor, it definitely is. Again, if we want to make edits, we can go to our Window and go to our Resource Manager. Here we can edit the device by going to the Edit field, and again we can change what kind of inputs and outputs this has by selecting them and looking at their electrical data. We can also see that this has a link for an output and what kind of output it is. Next is our usage objects. These are lighting devices, hoists, anything that uses power. In this example, we're using a Colorado 2. Now, as these come as GDTF files, you should make sure that everything is correct. Sometimes the manufacturer data is not 100% correct or will be different according to your region. Again, if we want to change these, we go to Window, Resource Manager, go to our fixture types, and click Edit. Here, when we look underneath of our system, we can see we have an input for our electrical device, the type of connector, the default length, whether this is dimmable, the consumption, how much wattage it uses, the average consumption, and how much voltage is the minimum and how much is the maximum. Now, this only has a power input. If this fixture has a power output, that's pretty easy to add. All we have to do is go to New Object, go to Electrical, and add the new electrical. Here is the electrical we added. We'll go ahead and set this to the top level. We have our wire. We want to change the type to output, and we can keep it as a Shulko connector, or if this is supposed to be, say, a PowerCon, we can type PowerCon and select Power Lock, True 1, or whatever kind of PowerCon it is. And now our output will be set, and we can change the name from wire to output. So now our object is ready to go. We have a DMX in, out. We're just going to go ahead and move this. There we go. Now everything's nice and easy to take care of. While we're here, we can also take a look at our data. Our DMX in is 5-pin, and our DMX output is also 5-pin. And we can save and close the edit mode. Our last is the cable path. The cable path object allows the system to know where cables can go. So for instance, if we have a truss out at front of house and we want our cables to run along the floor, we would draw this cable path along the side of the floor that we want them to be. Now, what if we don't have an object in the resources and we need to make a new object? Again, this is pretty easy. We just go to Window, we go to our Resource Manager, and let's go into our symbol definitions, and let's go ahead and duplicate this plug box and make it a PowerCon. So the first thing we'll do is duplicate it. Here is our duplicate down here, and we'll go ahead and edit our duplicate. So here is our duplicate. So from here, we can go ahead and change our input. So right now, this is a HON 16 connector. Let's say we want this to be a 19-pin SACO. We can see all of our alignments are still correct. We can change our link since we don't have one, and we can go ahead and just delete that. Change any of the names of our outputs if we want. We'll go ahead and grab all 6 of our outputs and go from SHACO to PowerCon True 1. And now all of our outputs are changed here. Save and close edit mode. Now I'm going to go to Window, Resource Manager. There's our socket to PowerCon True 1 connector ready to go. And this will allow you to set up any object in the drawing by making these edits, or create your own objects and save them to your own personal inventory. Next, let's go ahead and see how we can wire up a small file. Now let's go ahead and import a base file. Production Assist can import a DWG or MVR file or even PDF to start your drawing. Or you could start by working in AutoCAD, Vectorworks, BriskCAD, using it as a plugin. However, since the desktop version as well as the plugin operate exactly the same, we're going to go ahead and stick in the desktop version. For this example, we're going to go ahead and bring in an MVR file. This MVR base file could be brought in from anywhere, whether it was Vectorworks, MA3, or any other program that supports the GDTF MVR file format standard. Simply drag and drop our MVR file and go ahead and click OK. Here our system is built out. What I'm going to do first is select all the objects that we just brought in, right click, and then I'm going to go ahead and create an assembly group from the selected objects, and we're going to call this venue. And we'll go ahead and click OK. Now we have our venue filtered out. Next, let's go ahead and add a few simple objects. So we'll go to New Object. Here, let's add some stage decks. So I'll go to Symbols, Local Resources, Server Drawings. Here's all the different areas we have here. So we'll go ahead to Stage. We'll grab a stage deck. We'll also go into Align mode. And we'll set our distance. We'll go ahead and add a line of stages about 40 feet. We'll go ahead and select all of our stage decks. Grab the Move tool. We'll slide them just a little upstage, just a little more. And then what we'll do is we'll also use Option, click and drag to duplicate them and set our new set of stage decks. So now that we have a nice wide stage, and there we go, we have them all there. Grab all of our stage decks, right click, and create assembly group for the objects, and we'll call this stage to organize it. Now that we have all of our stage objects, we'll go ahead and add in some truss objects in here to hang some lights. So again, we'll go to New Objects, we'll go to Symbol, we'll go to Truss, Tomcat, .12" and then we'll scroll down to here, and we're going to go into line mode, and we'll go ahead and draw a line using the Shift key, and we'll go ahead and draw our truss, and we see that this has already come in as a selected truss structure. We're going to go ahead and give this a name for our group. Right now this is T1 and the object ID is T1. We're going to change this to FOH truss. Go to our Move tool. We can center it up a little bit more. Pull it away from our stage. And then in our global mode, we'll go ahead and give a Z height of 18 feet. So now our truss is trimmed out. We have our stage. We have everything ready to go. Now that we have some truss and some stage in, let's go ahead and add some fixtures to light the stage and uplight the drape. So we'll go into our front of house truss, and we'll go ahead and select all of our objects. This way we can make it super easy to go ahead and add them. By selecting all of them, we'll right click, we'll go to Place Objects Child Structure, and what we want to do is we're going to place this color source par, and we want to have an alternate alignment so that the way they hang on the truss evenly, and then we'll go ahead and increase the count, and we'll get down to about a 2.5 foot spacing, which will give us about 18 fixtures to go ahead and pretty much evenly relight the stage. We're at about a 3 foot spacing, and for right now we're not going to give an offset, and we'll go ahead and click OK. And now we have 18 pars to go all the way across and light our stage. Now we want to number them. The easiest way to do that is to go ahead and select all of our fixtures, here, go up to our object, and since we have them all selected, if we just type in 101 as the start, it'll go ahead and label them all the way across 101 to 118. To organize this a little bit more, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go ahead and create an assembly group for these objects, and we'll call this stage wash. Now we have a stage wash in, so now let's go ahead and add some uplights to the drape. We'll go ahead and go to new object. We're going to go to GDTF, and we're going to go ahead and select the exact same symbol that we did, so we can go into the open document, grab our color source par, make sure we're in align mode, set our spacing to 6/8, and we'll go ahead and click at the start of our drape, holding the shift key to keep aligned. We'll go all the way to the end of our drape and click again. Now we can go ahead and grab these pars. We'll go ahead and rotate them so they're facing up. And we'll go ahead and give them an object ID, and we'll start these at 201. So now 201 through 209 are ready, and we'll go ahead and create an assembly group for this as well, and we'll call this up lights. Give a little space. And click OK. So now that we have all of our fixtures in the drawing, we're ready to go ahead and start planning out our electrical system. Now that we've placed our needed fixtures into the document, let's go ahead and place some power objects. I'm going to go ahead into our orbit tool, and we're going to go ahead and move around the drawing and navigate so we can see our upstage edge. So this way, behind the drapes, that way we can add some fixtures in here, or our distribution system in here. Let's go to new object. We'll go ahead and go to symbol. And the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is under mesh, or under symbol, we're going to go into here. We'll go ahead and do our generator and power. And the generator I'm going to use is the 125 amp with a C-form connector. Go ahead and download and import that. Make sure I'm back in point mode, so I only add one. And we'll go ahead and add that here behind our drape. Now that we have our generator, we also need a power distro as well. So we'll finish placing that object, grab a new object, go into symbol, and under power distros and adapters, I'm going to scroll down until I see our 125 amp by Han16 Shuko, and we'll go ahead and download and import this. And here we'll place it just beside. And now we have our power supply and our generator object ready to go. We'll finish placing our object, and we're back into our selection. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and give this a name. So this will be supply. We'll give this a name. We will call this PD1. Now we have these two named. Now let's go ahead and add a cable path in here, so that way we can get from our front of house truss back correctly, and as well from these as well. So to do that, we'll add a new object, we'll get our cable path, we'll go into our array mode, and what we'll do is we'll start from our truss here, going kind of to our wall, and down to the floor with the shift key, and then over to our wall, and then all the way back, behind our drape line, and upstage to our fixtures. And we'll double click to end. And now we have our cable path in our drawing. Now that we have all of our objects that we need to wire up the main system, we'll go ahead and wire up each individual things. So we'll go ahead and add a new object. Again, we're going to add a symbol, and for this we're going to go to Power Patch, and we're going to go to our plug boxes and adapters, and we're going to grab our 12-way Shuko, and we'll go ahead and place that about in the middle of our drawing. Back into point mode. And there we have our plug box, and we're going to call this plug box A. Okay, let's take a look at how we can patch these objects. There's a few different ways to do this inside of Production Assist. So let's first take a look at our generator and our PD and how to connect these two. So there's a couple different ways to do this, but let's take a look at this first one. We're going to go ahead and select our power distro, and then what we want to do is we want to give it some input power here. So we can click the drop down and we can go ahead and select our generator, and now these two objects are going to be connected. Now we don't have them going anywhere else, but that's okay. We can see on our generator that we have a Schuko output, and then down here farther we have some Hahn outputs, and these can go out to our truss with some breakouts out there. But since this PD is so close to these uplights, let's go ahead and wire these uplights and take a look at how we can do that. So I know here, if I take a look at my uplights, that they start at 201. So we'll go back and grab our power distro, we'll take a look at our Schuko 1, we'll click the drop down, and then we'll go ahead and set it to 201 in. Now we have a connection going between the two. Now we can continue to go along and set this one to Schuko 2, set that one to Schuko 3, but since these have already pass-throughs, we can go ahead and set the pass-through for these as well. Let's take a look at that. So we'll expand our uplights here, and if we go ahead and grab 202, we can see that we have an input, and when we click the drop down, we can see that we can go all the way down here, and we can connect it to 201. So now 201 is where we're getting our power from. So if we look at object 201, we can see that our input is coming from our PD, and our output is coming from, and then we're going out into light 202. And we can keep going on down the line. So we'll just go ahead and grab our next fixture. We'll set that input as well to be 202. Grab our next, and so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and grab that one to be 203. So we have into 203. Where's 203 getting power from? Yep, and that's going to 204. 205. I'm out of 204. But there's other ways that we can do this. We don't have to do it one-to-one. The other way we can do this is to select, and we'll go ahead and unpatch these really quickly. So let's just go ahead and grab all of our uplights here, and then we'll go to, and we'll delete our power patch to our selected object so we can take a look at another way to do this. So the other way that we can do this is we'll go back and we'll go ahead and set this as well back to being in our output. Actually, this will probably be easier. Just come back down to our generator. We'll set this again to be 201. There we go. And now what we'll do is we'll select all of the PARs that are on the upstage line. We'll go to selection, and we'll go ahead and go power patch 1-to-1, and then everything will be patched and ready to go. So just a couple different ways that you can go ahead and patch everything and get everything set together. Let's go ahead and take a look at our T1 to see some other ways that we can do this. So we'll go down to our stage wash here. You see that we have all of our color sources right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add PD boxes out here. So to do that, we're going to go into our new object. we're going to grab our Han 16 to 6 Shuko. I don't want the one that has the output to the other side, so we're just going to go ahead and use the 12 right here. So we're going to go ahead and import that, and we'll add that right about in the middle of the truss. There we go. And now we can see our plug box, but let's go ahead and give this a name because we want to know where this is. So we will go up to the top, and under Object ID, we're going to go ahead and call this A. That way we have a plug box identification. So now with our plug box selected, just scroll this down. Actually, let's go ahead and remove the navigation so we can see all this, so we can see everything work. Go ahead and grab all of our fixtures, and again, come up, selection, power patch 1-to-1. And all of our objects have been patched into that plug box. And now all we have to do is patch this plug box into our PD. So what we'll do is we can either select the output from here or from here. Let's go ahead and take a look at it from the generator again, because that's just a really nice way to do this. So here's our first output, and when we click our drop down, we can see that there it is. There's our input A. We click that, and now we have patched in our system. So there are multiple different ways to do this, and we can see, so this way we've kind of patched them 1-to-1. You can also set the individual patching like we saw earlier, where you can specifically patch one fixture to the next fixture if you like. So however your workflow needs to go, there's options for you to create. Later on in other tutorials, there are multiple different ways to look at this data. You can see it here in the scene tree, and as we'll see later on, there's actually an electrical network that you can take a look at and also do some patching there. Now that we've gotten everything set up, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can get our information out. We'll go to Window and then Worksheets. Worksheets will allow you to export different kinds of information about the document. Let's take a look at our inventory. Here we can see all of the different things that we want to have. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a filter, and we can show specifically what we would like to have in here. We can show fixtures, power sources. We don't want to show fixtures. I don't want structures, support, audio, meshes, other. We'll go ahead and show our just these here. We can add anything else we want. We can show accessories, summary, or invert, or show our inventory if there's any errors. We can edit properties based on our filter. And we can change up how we want to move our columns around if we wish. This will allow you to set up your drawing exactly as you want in order to get every single thing that you want to show and how you want to show it. Again, you can go into the properties, change out the properties in inventory, but we'll cover all this in another webinar later on. From here, once everything is set up and you're ready to go, you just have create, and then now I have a template. So this can be my power, and we click OK. And now I have my power saved here for what I'm doing for my inventory. If I wish to export, I can go ahead and export as a PDF or a CSV and save it locally. I hope you've enjoyed this brief webinar on how to use the electrical power planning system inside of Production Assist. Stay tuned for more information on how to use the product. And if you want to see a more in-depth workflow, go ahead and leave a comment below.